it's just like, I looked in and it's just like he should be here.
He's just worried about David.
Yeah, it is. I'm worried about him. No, but he's good. He's good, folks. But we're all here. We've been talking a lot of sports. We just did our off the rails stuff, and now we're gonna get into some baseball here, ladies and gentlemen, because baseball season is still underway. The playoffs are here, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get last week, even though it was big news from last week, but if you don't know, two legends of their game, one not baseball, one definitely baseball, Dikembe Mutombo, former NBA center, one of the greatest defending big men of all time, I believe well over 5 times, I think, or something. Multiple accolades. One of the best African players to ever play the game. Unfortunately, passed away last week from brain cancer at the age of 58 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which I had known he was dealing with for like a couple of years now. He had announced that, but he was always in high spirits. He was always looking good. He was always energetic. There was nothing about him ever give you any sign that things were going wrong. Of course, obviously this is it's serious disease. You never know, but for a guy like Dikembe Mutombo, it's a major loss to the basketball community for sure, especially the African basketball community as a whole.
Yeah, you always see it on online, the outpouring of love, and then of course just the biggest thing for me was what Adam Silver said in an interview. He's just saying that anytime the NBA asked him to do anything, whether it was just to go out there and be an endorser, be the representation for the NBA, he always said yes. It was never like, oh no. He was always willing to be the guy there for him. So yeah. It's just really, really awesome. Unfortunate for that, but really awesome to hear that he was just, always ready to go, always willing to build just the NBA as a whole. And just super unfortunate. But again, it speaks volumes that a guy like him, just no one probably had an ill will thing to say to him about him. And then it goes further, like, 2 different franchises retire your number.
That's
a big thing right there. So he's a huge loss. I'm sure was probably ranked when they do the 75 best. I think he was probably in there. I'll double check.
I believe so. Yeah, again, he's one of the most memorable players.
Finger wag, the Geico commercial. He's more than just the game. He's been in pop culture.
Oh yeah,
so
he is
huge loss and very unfortunate.
Absolutely, he was personality. He was player. He was everything. And for what he's done too in helping the game progress, because if you look at the NBA now, how many guys come in who have those African last names? He is a big part of that. Obviously, Luol Deng, Akeem Olajuwon, all those guys, certainly the outpour, the amount of money they too put into these programs as well. But Dikembe Mutombo, ambassador for African basketball, millions of dollars put into helping Africa all across the country, the continent, I should say, mind you, in growing the game. From Egypt all the way down to South Africa, he had put money into basketball schools, programs, whatever you can find. He was just about, I want this continent to be known to have some of the greatest to ever do it. And you see some of these names now and you go, yeah, some of them are the best players in the NBA right now. And he should certainly be one of those men that are credited with that 100% for starting the trend and for helping the trend continue.
Just going down as one of the best defenders in basketball.
Absolutely.
Ever. I mean,
when many people thought that African players could not maybe measure up to that NBA level, he broke through the mold with Akeem Olajuwon, where they went, okay, they're big, they're tall, but can they really play basketball?
Right.
Well, they both can absolutely play basketball, and they were 2 of the best to ever do it.
Wow, actually, Dikembe is not included in the NBA's top 75 players of all time.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
I thought he was.
Other notable omissions, according to the AI overview from Google, says Pau Gasol, Bob Lanier, Adrian Datelin, Alonzo Mourning. So yeah, that's
wow.
Yeah, wow.
I did not know that. I would have certainly.
Fix it.
Yeah, I was going to say Danley, Gasol, Mutombo, all those guys.
And when that did come out, I'm sure that there was a ton of like, oh, what do we do? What really, like him? Like,
oh yeah, well, what was it? Damian Lillard, I think he was number 75 or something like that. Somebody who was like at the very bottom of the list. They're like, really? There's other guys that I think could be more deserving. So
yeah,
but rest in peace to our man Dikembe Mutombo, the man who has beloved, I would say, amongst all in sports. There's not a bad thing I've heard anybody ever say about him other than those that have certainly gotten their shot blocked by them. I mean, even Shaq was like, yeah, he made me mad, but like, how can you stay mad at Dikembe?
Right.
Well, fair enough.
He's in Jesus's rotation now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, outside of that,
in heaven.
not today, Jesus.
Yeah.
No.
But outside of that, obviously on the baseball side, baseball lost one of its biggest icons, as well as I guess you could also say outcast too, in Pete Rose. 83 years old, I believe, when he passed. I mean, this is the hit king. This is the man, all-time leader in hits, an incredible career, an incredible, lifetime of playing baseball and stuff. Unfortunately, though, marred by the negativity of betting on baseball games when he was player manager in Philly. And there's obviously been a lot of talk about his passing and the greatness of who he is, as well as, of course, well, does this mean he gets to the Hall of Fame? Right. And look, before we should discuss that, sure. But let's say for the man of who he was as a baseball player, I don't think a man could have represented baseball during the 70s and the 80s any better than he did, right? A rough and tough tumble period of slashing and diving and punching and fighting. I mean, he was a gold standard for like, this is what you want out of toughness. This is the guy. He's Charlie Hustle, an absolute icon of the sport, no matter how you want to look at him.
Did it all with that haircut too.
Yeah. That was the 70s look, man. I had that look when I was a kid. My grandfather didn't know how to cut any other hair, so I had the Charlie Hustle haircut. Obviously, yeah, Tyler's looking at the pictures. The iconic picture of him obviously sliding into second there. Yeah, the head first dive was probably his most memorable thing that he would ever do. So
I think my biggest problem as of late on this was AJ Persinski's reaction of him saying like, oh, he knew what he was doing. He was just going to think he was going to get away with it because he thinks he's Pete Rose. Like, dude, AJ just again.
Yeah.
With the noise. I wasn't like, I obviously love the guy for doing what he did in 05 and everything else. But just sometimes I sit there and just like, you got to stop with that. And I feel like he should be, all the stats are there. If we really want to get into it, all the players that have done worse, whether it be, straight up cheating or, I also toss under beating up your spouse or beating up your significant other.
Absolutely.
There's other people that are probably in the hall that have done that or done worse. Or I think,
right.
Was it Ty Cobb that had he brought a child from the train station and just had him sleep underneath his bed because he thought he was good luck or something ridiculous. There's somebody that did that. I forgot who it was.
He was in itself his own strange character, and certainly he was very outspoken, obviously against the color barrier being broken and stuff. So
if all this madness is involved, and there's already people that are like, hey, what is it? Why is this guy in there? It's just I don't think he was fixing games. This could be some sort, of course, whatever. You'd really have to deep dive and everything. But it just made that documentary right before. I haven't got around to watching. I think it's on HBO. Or
it is. It's on HBO now.
The Vince McMahon documentary where it's very nuanced, hey, introductory to everything.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or you will know if you watch it, I suppose.
Right.
But either way, you can put him in the hall, put him in a section of the hall. It's absolutely ridiculous. Again, in a time now where it was sports gambling is so highly regarded and everybody's in it and every former athlete is in a commercial or current athletes are even in the commercials now.
Yeah.
It's come on. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. No, his legacy obviously is one that's hard to touch, right? When you consider how incredible that is to think that you could get to that many hits in that amount of time in his career, right? He was so clutch. He came in during a time when, a player like him was certainly necessary on a team in Cincinnati and then in Philly as well too, where they had good players, but they were still kind of just we're just hovering above. But he kind of sets the tone. He sets the tone. Now, obviously, what happens after his legacy with the betting on the games and all that stuff, how much people, that's up to everybody, right? I'm certainly sure. My head says, though, he is in the Hall of Fame technically because his bat's there, his gloves there, his shoes are there from being the all-time leader in hits. So he is technically in the Hall of Fame. It's just the person that is Pete Rose, the player that is Pete Rose, is not in the Hall of Fame, and that's what people oftentimes I think get upset about. So, but in my head, I think I don't know if he should go in the Hall of Fame because I mean, again, yes, other guys have certainly done worse, but by MLB standards, at least at that time, they're saying he broke the rules, and that's. That and obviously it looks hypocritical now because you've jumped in with all of these, gambling machines now in terms of Vegas and all of that, and I understand that completely. It's just if you go based upon the rules at the time, it would look poorly for the MLB, which then means that okay, you have to go. If you're so back on that, then that means the steroid guys got to go in, and you keep going standing on those guys, which I'm fine with. Put them in too if you want to put them in too. Let them all in if that's the case. But they're so like, well, we can't let him in, and then we can't let this. Well, then either let them all in, or then you have to say they all can't come in. You can't show favoritism. I feel like one way or the other.
And but again, it's just so glaring when when someone was probably giving their RIP to Pete Rose, they're probably also in the same game. We're like, all right, the replay of the game brought to you by DraftKings.
Right?
Like,
yes, absolutely.
It's just disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, and this is where I mean, I'm not a big gambler anymore. I'll do it every once in a while. Like I've calmed that down a lot because you should only gamble with what you can. Please gamble responsibly. But we're getting to a point now where obviously there's a lot of people that are watching games more so for see like how much money you can win. And I think this is where the companies need to start taking more responsibility for their actions and their advertisements. I've said this before because you watch those advertisements, they're still pushing the ads where it's like, oh my God, I just can't. I believe I bet $10 and I won like $100,000. It's like you can't keep running that ad. What was the last one I saw? I think it was Jake Paul or something like that. And he was like, "Oh my God, I just won like $1 million or whatever it was off of some little something."
It's more. It's not really on the commercials. It's more or less the actual Instagram accounts. Whoever's running the social medias and allowing that stuff to get out there. They show the reactions and then they show the, oh my God, he had a $10 bet slip and he just won $1,700 on a 15-leg parlay. It's like, oh yeah, that's I could easily do that. No, you can't.
No,
that's just a shot in the dark.
Because I've worked with a guy that did. He went off and did his own thing and stuff. But like he was that kind of guy who was like he's betting big, but he's winning big, and like I would see him put stuff out there, and it's like, but he's advertising and he's not letting them know, and it's like you got to let them know, and that's where I think like this thing gets very messy and stuff. So, but obviously for Pete Rose. His legacy, I think, is no matter what, still locked in baseball lore. He's the all-time leaders in hits. He's a guy who will be, remembered as a champion. He's got the rings on his hands no matter what. No one's going to take that away from him. Whether he's in the Hall of Fame or not, I don't think really is necessary because no matter what, he's an all-time legend and all-time great of the game. And I think people, if you love baseball and you know who he is, you're going to remember him as that. You're not going to be force-fed anything in terms of like, oh, he's a bad guy or this or that. You're going to remember him for who he was. And I remember Pete Rose. I met him one time years ago when I was still in high school. Nice guy to me, at least. Shook my hand, said, "Hi, young man, how are you?" I said, "Good. I love baseball." My dad said you're one of his favorite players. And then he really didn't like it. And he went, "Yeah, I get that a lot." I was like, that's great. Shook hands, took a quick picture, signed some stuff for me, and he signed his stuff. He said, "Go hustle." That was what he signed for me. So he was an awesome guy. I know he wasn't always the easiest to work with. I get that, but
is anybody?
That's the thing. It's like everybody's a little bit difficult to work with, and you know what? I wouldn't expect anything else from this guy because he was tough from end to end. So give him his props where props were due. I'd say as a player. R.I.P. to Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose, man. You are always and forever one of the legends of the game, just like everybody else, from Babe Ruth to Lou Gehrig to all those dudes.
Absolutely.
You're there. All right.
Well, I mean, still kind of on the Reds. We can talk Terry Francona before.
Yes. Let's talk about that. Terry Francona, because we kind of mentioned it a little bit last, but let's really dive into this. Terry Francona, it is official now. He is the new manager. Obviously, a big hiring for them, for sure. This is the kind of kick in the pants I think that organization has needed because certainly there's a lot of questions up front with them and the management side and all that stuff. This is, however, a manager that now steps in and goes, okay, here's how things are going to be done. At least from my take and point of view. So, Nick, I mean, from the get-go, Terry Francona to the Reds, your thoughts on where the Reds will go now with Francona at the helm?
I mean, he just seems like one of those guys, a guy like, I mean, similar to AJ Hinch now, who you see getting a ton, if not so much, out of so little.
Yeah.
And he's done it with other past Cleveland Indian teams or Cleveland Guardian teams now. But it's exactly that. This is a solid hire. What, just a year removed? He was
he just took a year off, basically.
Yeah, just taking away. I think he had some health issues, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was some concern with him because I think he's in his mid 70s right now, I believe.
Yeah,
something like that.
But I mean, this
60. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
and this Reds team right now, as it still stands, I mean, thought at the beginning of the year could be like the dark horse, could sneak away, maybe even steal the division.
That's what we're calling them.
Just maybe even be like a wild card contender. They fell well short of what just some expectations were, but again, they were high expectations just considering a lot of hot bats. You saw what you saw out of Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
So many, there's a lot to mold from there. So you got Ellie De La Cruz, you got a guy as well. And you got the pretty solid young pitching cores to do as well. So Terry Francona has a lot of talent right in front of him, and who's to say? I mean, I think someone brought it up, even and way more out of what's expected from this young team. So a lot right there. Again, I don't think they're going to be World Series contenders even after next year, but they can make some noise and do a lot more than what they're supposed to.
This is definitely going to get them in the right direction. Because just kind of mirroring.
That's what they probably needed this year. Just someone
they have the young
to
talent,
steer the helm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They have the young talent. They just needed someone and being able to lock in Francona, just taking a year out, but having a successful career as a manager. I mean, this is the best move that for the Reds to do in this situation where they're at. And so he's getting out of this deal.
Money's
way.
money, but
Right.
he's gonna want to get in there. He's gonna teach. He's gonna wrap these boys up. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
A little bit, because I mean, early in the season, the Reds and the Cubs were like right there, neck and neck. I mean, that for the while that division was neck and neck, aside from the Brewers. But I mean, and this does give Cleveland a little bit more of an edge.
Things in the postseason.
Yeah.
Thank God. But this almost gives Cincy a little bit of an edge over the Cubs, at least in my opinion, because there's still a lot of question marks. I mean, the Cubs, they pretty much fired every coach on that staff, which I mean, to me is kind of good.
Yeah.
I think the only one that stayed is the pitching coach. But I mean,
there's still a lot. I mean, there's obviously a lot of optimism for the Cubs side of it. I've heard a lot of people thinking they're going to get Corbin Burns and then they'll pipe dream, but they could add like Vladdy if they made the right move.
I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it, because again, it's the Cubs that they don't spend money and they haven't spent money on players. And so I don't know, maybe after 1 year that Council had, maybe this is where he was like, all right, I want my staff and we're going to get my players and stuff like that. We'll see. I mean, you if you're gonna pay a manager that much, make him the highest paid manager, you better let the guy do what the hell he wants. You know,
well,
or this guy's gonna sit on a paycheck.
That's part of the problem I think that's going on with the Cubs right now, because it's pretty clear like the Reds are hiring Terry Francona to be like, you're the manager, you're in charge of the ball team, like work with the GM, let's go.
Yeah.
Chicago guys that are vying for it, and they both want credit, but they're just head to head locked with each other. Like Council wants one thing, and I think Hoyer wants another, and there's too much imbalance there.
And they should have thought of that before. I mean, I don't hate the Craig Council hire, but it's like you don't bring him in if you still want to like make the calls for him. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing is like you brought in Craig Council to be your guy. This is the guy that's attached to your career now on how you win and how you fail. Like that's how that's going to go. Why is it suddenly now it seems to be there's like in-house fighting, even though it's not being said, it certainly seems like you guys are not really getting along the way that you thought you were supposed to.
Fishy.
But for Terry Francona, I mean, you look at his career, you know, what, 25 seasons, right, with the Boston Red Sox, was it? Or not 25 seasons. It's 2 World Series. I mean, with since of 500 overall for his career, over 500, 1,950 wins. I mean, in 23 seasons as a manager, this is a guy who knows how to go from the bottom and get themselves back to the top. So he understands, and you got to remember that Red Sox team, he was a first-year manager stepping in with them in 2004. They were kind of put together with some duct tape with a couple of stars here and there. Very 05 White Sox on our end, kind of, if you will. Like, okay, they have Ortiz, they have a few guys, and
they also
then
did
just,
that weird thing where they went from
yes,
series to worst to first, winning the World Series again.
That is correct.
So I don't know.
It's an odd. It was an odd roller coaster of a season, but a couple of times with those Red Sox, and then, I mean, Cleveland found the next. Who better than? I'll say this was a great hire for the Reds. It'll get this young team upstart. Whether he carries it out long term to a World Series or not, who knows? But it is now your chance to say the young guys improve, they get coaching, they develop. The rookies that you bring up eventually become those stars, and who knows what's next on the outlook for this team for sure.
Yeah.
With a few minutes left, let's just talk about it, because obviously
got games going on right now.
Got games going on right now. Tigers and Guardians tied right now at 0-0.
Bottom of the third.
Bottom of the third. This. Thank you. Yankees are currently leading. They got 1-0 on the series as it stands right now. Yankees, they took them pretty well.
Watching I guess the big blemish for the Tigers in that first game was giving up 5 in the first inning, but other than that, like that
was rough.
Yeah,
that was a rough one.
Couldn't get the bats going. Still looks like it can't get them going now. But right now, that Phillies and Mets series is popping. The whole NL side is just is
I'm
red hot.
Super excited. I'm super excited for this Mets Phillies series, especially because those two teams obviously want to dominate one another. I still might give the push to the Mets, just because I think they got some sort of momentum on their side. I love you, David. I love the Phillies. It's just, man, they tripped up big time in that first game. Kind of just like sets a tone. And I don't know, the Mets, like even in that second game, the Mets were still in it. It's hard for me to count them out right now because they came back. Yeah. They came back to tie it. So Pete Alonso does Pete Alonso things. I can't deny them on that. And then obviously Padres, Dodgers. Padres were able to take the game back against the Dodgers taking the first game.
That was like a little moment, like, like, oh, the Dodgers might treat him like little brother. Like, oh, no, the Padres came back second game. Punched him right in the mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Authority.
That was, but I didn't know. Tatis is hitting over 600.
Right now he is?
Yeah, right now he's hitting over 600. I looked at his
2 home runs last night.
Yeah, I did not realize that. So I was like, well, why is this average so? Oh, that's why, because he's destroying the baseball.
Yeah,
so
he's hitting the cover off the ball
now. Well, and this is, I mean, if ever there was a moment for the Padres to start making that push, this is where you need those guys, the elite guys that you've paid big money to step up, and they're doing it, right? Yeah. Everybody's making the play that they should be making.
Well, so far, it's been the stars. I mean, Shohei Ohtani shows up in the first game.
Yeah.
Takes out Dylan Cease.
God.
And then, Tatis in the second game. So, LA and San Diego. Hopefully that goes 5 just for the sake of being fun.
I hope so. Honestly, this has been good baseball.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good competition between all the teams here.
Absolutely,
it's just hard to count out the Phillies in playoffs because Phillies. In playoffs.
Trust me, man.
But I'm kind of in the same boat because New York, the Mets are actually
It just feels like the Miracle Mets all over again. Like they got that magic's there. That 86-69 magic is like resting in their bones, and they're like, we're gonna do it. Like somebody's gonna come up with a clutch. So far, it's been Nemo.
Do you remember that? Do you know that one picture of the AFC and the NFC championship games when it's Tom Brady, Nick Foles? Like that's what it feels. That's how it feels on the. That's how it feels on the AL side with the Tigers, the Royals, the Guardians, and the Yankees, and then the other side, it just feels like when they put up like the trilogy, like the horse that's on fire, like the whole thing. That's the NL side right now.
That's fantastic.
That's so good.
And honestly, I think it's tough to call because obviously you want to see the big brands in there, of course, for the World Series. I feel like though we might get a really good World Series out of this, regardless of who's in there, because everybody's chomping at the bit to be that top team. They want to. Obviously, they all want to win, but it's like they're like, we're going full gas, no brakes. We want to win. Do whatever it takes. Steal the bases. Go for the home run. Do what you got to do.
Give me my free taco. That's all I want.
Give us those free tacos, baby. But it is. I'm thoroughly enthralled watching these games, even more so than I thought I would be. It's fantastic baseball. Loving every moment of it. Can't wait to see
when every pitch matters. It's a different feeling.
Absolutely,
it changes everything. And I don't want to say it takes away from the 162, but it makes you think for sure when like it really comes down. It makes every single pitch important.
Real quick, Gabe Ramirez and I were talking last Wednesday. Is that just kind of overall talk about just playoffs and sports in general. And we both kind of agreed that baseball playoffs, I don't know, it just hits different compared to like
quite literally
NBA playoffs. I mean, obviously the NFL playoffs gets crazy too because
the
it's
NBA
just one game.
Playoffs feels like it's a whole season of itself.
Yes.
It's
absolutely
so damn long.
It's brutal. And then like, with the NFL, it's just one or done.
Yeah.
But like with baseball, I don't know what it is. Like I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I will watch the playoffs for the Major League Baseball, and it's just fantastic. Like we kind of ranked it. That's the most exciting playoffs.
Absolutely.
I would say that. I would still say maybe hockey, even being like hockey, an outside.
That's the only time you'll see me watch hockey.
Even when I'm not like, of course, I'm Blackhawks are basically nothing. But even then, like when I check in and like, oh man, these series, like you can come back being down 3-1 in a hockey series. Like,
it's not out of the blue. No.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the playoffs, folks. The
3 down 3-0. You can come back.
The ball can bounce in the net anyway. The ball can come off the bat anyway. Right? The puck can bounce. That's why we do it. That's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about it.
Exactly.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of this talk.
Yeah.
Because we have to get out of here. Some of us got some bills to pay. Some of us got some sleepy time we got to get to. And other
for tonight.
Oh man,
and then you got Royals and Yankees.
I want to go and say I think I'm going to go and give the Cleveland. I'm going to give the Guardians this one.
Yeah.
Take the 2-0 lead on them. It just I
say 2-0 and then Royals tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah,
okay.
Royals find a way to get it done. I mean, their pitchers always find a way. They come in strong, and I'm sorry, Carlos Rodon. I don't trust you.
See it when I see it. I'll believe
exactly,
when I believe it.
Exactly.
My heart's wanting me to take Detroit today, but I mean they're gonna go back home. But yeah, it's gotta be Cleveland just with them at home, and then shoot, where are they at in this game? In this next game? Oh, in New York.
Yeah.
I'll go Kansas City as well.
Yeah,
why not?
Sure.
Let's have. They're one of those really weird dark horse teams.
Let's scare the Yankees fans. Let's go.
I don't like it.
What you got to say, New York? All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you all so much for listening and watching, catching us on the YouTube and the Twitch side. Thank you all so much for listening to us on SportsTownChicago.com. If you want to hear us anymore, as always, every Monday and now Friday, you can catch us at 2 o'clock. We are going live. That's 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, mind you, here on the Twitch side and the YouTube side on SportsTownChicago.com. You guys can check us out, listen to us, give us the comments, give us some likes, give us some love. You want to hit us up anymore on our social media? That is Blow T Whistle 1 on all the good social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we got it. Any questions or comments? blowtwhistleradio@gmail.com as well. We want to hear from you guys too about that stuff. Ask us some questions and some comments. We may get into those. I know we didn't get a chance to get into those here on Off the Rails like I was previously kind of saying, but you know what?
Okay.
We'll save it for a mailbag or we'll save it for another Off the Rails. You know, again, we got some stuff, some wrestling stuff to talk about. We got some Blow to Whistle stuff to talk about, some, crazy stuff you guys keep asking us about. I mean, you guys are weird, but we love you all the same. They are weird. Yeah,
that's fair.
What do I care about how much fish is eaten by? Why all the fish comments? I'm blaming Scotty for that. I think that covers everything, if I'm not mistaken.
so.
Also, Bet Karma Wrestling every Friday,
Big Karma
11:30
Wrestling.
p.m. BK Dub.
BK Dub.
Catch them, David Double D Dykstra, no Gimmick Nick Johnson talking all the wrestling stuff as well.
We got Bad Blood to recap this.
Yes,
weekend.
yes, you do. And I don't know how you felt on it, but you know,
I got to replay. I got to watch it back. But boy, oh boy, CM Punk unsafe.
I was gonna say, geez. But outside of that, folks, I think that's gonna cover everything that we've talked about. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. We see you guys on Friday. Peace.
This is your home for sports.
Longtime